And so we're probably okay with the questions.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our chats today. We're excited you're here and joining us. It's our special International Heritage Breeds Month, so we're excited to welcome some international guests. We have Guadalupe Rodríguez with us here today. Welcome, welcome. And then we wonderful. And we have Jeanette Behringer, the Livestock Conservancy's Senior Program Manager, and Dr. Phil Sponenberg, who is our wonderful technical advisor, who's also joining us today. Welcome, y'all. All right, Jeanette, do you want to give a little overview about what we're talking about today?
So we wanted to try and highlight some programs to help conserve native breeds and rare breeds in different countries. And Phil was just singing Guadalupe's accolades and the wonderful work that she's doing in Chiapas, Mexico. And Phil, did you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you found were really important with the work? I know that one thing that I found really exciting is the local food production and how 75% of the food produced for the population there is produced in the backyard in small farms.
Yeah, Lupita is part of a group that works there in Chiapas, and this group is incredibly productive and incredibly imaginative and innovative. And they have now established this whole study of local food production as its own discipline, which is really important. And so it works with the people, the systems, and the genetic resources. And she'll have a whole lot more to add on that, but this is extremely important throughout the Americas, but especially there in Chiapas.
Mm-hmm. Well, my first question is, why in this particular region is the local food production so important? Is it because, my gut tells me there's probably not a lot of supermarkets down there. And so has this always been the case, or is this something that's been happening more and more? Why has this become particularly important in this region?
Can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hola, muchísimas gracias por este espacio para las familias productoras de Chiapas. Es una oportunidad muy importante y obviamente también para nosotros como académicos.
Okay, so thanks very much for the opportunity here. This is really important for the women that are producers of food there to give acknowledgement of this program, and it also helps and acknowledges the investigators that are doing on the work. We'll have to see how much I can translate.
Okay, bien, sí, creo que es muy importante hablar de la pequeña agricultura familiar. Creo que es muy importante recordarnos a todos en el mundo que el 75% o más de los alimentos que todos consumimos en el mundo viene de la pequeña producción familiar.
So the importance of the small producers is this high percent. ¿Cuál porcentaje? Guadalupe.
Más del 75%.
Okay, so it's more than 75% of the food production actually comes from the small producers. It's called traspatio, which translates as backyard. It's a little bit more involved than what we consider to be a backyard, but it's the local food production there with these local producers.
Estos datos los indica FAO, o sea, de verdad que hay un respaldo importante.
So all those figures actually come from FAO, and so they're reliable and very, very important.
La agricultura familiar se desarrolla a partir de una lógica de abastecer a la familia y de comercializar también producción. Esto es muy importante.
So the importance is it's family-based production. So it's really, really important for the family, but it's also important commercially because enough of these products move through the commercial streams. It has dual importance.
El trabajo de producción se hace a partir de diferentes opciones animales y vegetales a lo largo del año y se entrega alimentos sanos, frescos, pocos kilómetros para la familia, la comunidad y el entorno cercano.
Muchas palabras. Okay, so the importance of this is that it's local and it's healthy and it's available all year long. And so it actually improves the health, local health of the people, and it uses a variety of animal and vegetable or plant-based nutrients. Más o menos.
Now, I understand that you're working specifically with local indigenous groups to document their food systems. And I'm just curious if that involves like local breeds that are adapted for that area. And what have you been finding?
Con mucho gusto. Chiapas, México, tiene una importante población y grupos diversos indígenas. Chiapas tiene 9 grupos indígenas en su población y es población importante.
So Chiapas there has 9 different indigenous population groups. So the indigenous population groups are really important.
Entonces, nuestra universidad, la Universidad Autónoma de Chiapas, tiene la oportunidad y la responsabilidad de trabajar con toda esta población. Particularmente en el grupo de trabajo nuestro, tenemos mucha interacción con indígenas tzotziles, celtales y choles de Chiapas.
Okay, muchas palabras. So, they have the opportunity and the responsibility to work with these local groups, and there's 3 of them. Tzotzil, los otros? Tzotziles is one of them.
Tzotziles, celtales y choles. Son 3 grupos.
Choles y altares.
Exacto.
So there's 3 different groups there.
Y en esta interacción, como profesionistas, como profesores, como investigadores, pero también como personas, hemos podido crecer con las familias productoras que nos explican y nos comparten un sistema de vida desarrollado por cientos de años.
So even as investigators and as professors, they're able to work with these people and to actually, if I'm getting this right, to gain attitudes and mechanisms for food production that are successful for these families.
Mm-hmm. Una característica muy importante de estos sistemas de vidas campesinos, indígenas, pero también con pueblos mestizos de Chiapas, nos ha permitido entender la producción diversificada con pocas cantidades y dinamizando a lo largo del año la producción agrícola y pecuaria.
So they've been able to work with both the indigenous and the mestizo populations, and they've worked with these systems that use very, very few resources, but actually provide good quality food throughout the year.
What kind of animals has she been finding that they work with in these systems?
Especialmente estas unidades de producción familiar trabajan con pequeños grupos de aves, normalmente gallinas y guajolotes, pero también tienen pequeños rumiantes, ovejas, cerdos, algunas veces pocas vacas, pero también no nos olvidemos de los perros y los gatos que cuidan a estos animales y a toda la familia.
Okay, so most of the work is with chickens and turkeys, and then the local turkeys, which actually have a different name in Spanish than the industrial turkeys, which is interesting because they are local to the area. And then fewer sheep, but some sheep, and a very, very few cattle. And then also the cats and the dogs, and it all works together to make this productive system.
Así es. Estos animales generalmente son de razas locales. A veces criollos, pero en otras ocasiones son razas locales. lo importante es que son pocos animales en cada unidad de producción que brindan un destacado aporte a la familia. ¿Quieres traducir?
Okay, so most of the animal, the genetic resources are local. So the birds and the sheep and even the cats and the dogs are all local and been there for centuries. And okay.
Y ellos, estos pequeños grupos animales entregan a la familia alimento, entregan fibras, entregan piel, cuero, productos artesanales, pero brindan servicios también como servicio de carga o de tiro para desarrollar el sistema de vida familiar en estos espacios rurales.
So they produce the obvious things like fiber, so wool, skins, and leather, but then also services. So basically transport and also other services that help to provide for the livelihood of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Una situación muy particular es cómo los animales en estos contextos indígenas se vinculan a la cosmovisión local y entonces el aporte es social, cultural, antropológico. Y tenemos espacios donde particularmente gallinas y guajolotes se combinan en un aporte de orden cultural, significando insumos para rituales tradicionales.
So all these animals, but especially the chickens and the turkeys, provide for culturally significant inputs in dishes that are preferred by the families. ¿Es correcto o no?
Es correcto. It's right.
Okay.
Can I ask how do these turkeys relate to the domestic turkeys that we have up here in the U.S.?
¿Me ayudas con esa pregunta Vicky?
¿Qué tipo de guajolotes tienen? ¿Y son relacionados a los industriales de Norteamérica o no?
Sí existen el pavo blanco de doble pechuga, el industrial, pero es en mínimas cantidades. Realmente, en los contextos rurales de Chiapas y en general en los contextos rurales de México, se trabaja con el guajolote criollo, el negro.
Okay, so there's very, very, very few of the broad-breasted white type of birds. Most of the birds are these local birds. Most of them are black, son negros.
Sí.
Most of them are black local birds. And it's this is important to remember is that turkeys were domesticated in Mexico. So these are the old types of birds that were then brought to Europe, and then that's complicated, but these are the originals.
Perdón, este guajolote, nosotros diferenciamos guajolote, el negro, pavo, el blanco industrial. Y este guajolote es una especie de ahorro de la familia porque crece muy despacio y se vende bien en un periodo de 8 meses o 10 meses, generalmente para Navidad.
So the differences in the birds are so great that the local birds actually have a special name, which is guajolote, which is an indigenous word. The white birds they just call pavo, which would translate as turkey. And so, but the demand for the local birds is quite high, and so they're actually economically productive there for the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
The other thing I wanted to explore a little bit is you're particularly passionate about empowering rural women, and how do you address that?
Bien, nuestro grupo de trabajo busca el bienestar de las personas, pero tenemos una expresión diferente a bienestar. Hablamos de estar bien. Y nosotros generalmente trabajamos con las mujeres de las familias porque son las encargadas de cuidar los animales, de cuidar las plantas del traspatio, los pequeños cultivos. ¿Quieres Phil? Para no enredar.
Well, so to them it brings a great deal of satisfaction to work with the women who are actually responsible for the caring for the animals, caring for the people, and taking care of this level of production. In addition, this relates to human well-being, and the Spanish here gets tricky because you could say it one way or you could say it the other way, and we would translate both as well-being. The other one is sort of being well, and it translates into that idea of wholeness and health and within the community and within the family.
Nosotros promovemos junto con ellas que ellas mismas, la familia, la comunidad y quienes tenemos el beneficio de lo que ellas hacen, identifiquemos el valor de las pequeñas, grandes acciones que ellas hacen en la unidad de producción familiar.
And so they're able to...
Perdóname.
No he entendido todo.
Bien. Nosotros intentamos que las pequeñas, grandes acciones de estas mujeres en la unidad de producción familiar sea valorada por todos los que estamos en el entorno, pero especialmente por ellas.
So the idea is to bring value, to declare value to this sort of input, not only for the family and for the system, but especially for the women who actually provide it. So it actually empowers them and gives them recognition for what they're doing.
Estas mujeres trabajan con recursos locales, recursos materiales e inmateriales. Hablamos del agua, la tierra, el clima, la cultura, las tradiciones. Y necesitamos entre todos nosotros reconocer que cada acción de ellas es importante para el patrimonio ambiental, el natural, para el patrimonio humano, para el patrimonio económico y para el patrimonio social.
And so all of this, it's important to recognize both the physical inputs and the non-physical inputs, like the cultural inputs, the traditional inputs, and to give value to those. And then I forgot.
No sé qué dije al final, pero para nosotros es muy, muy importante que ellas entiendan lo importante de lo que ellas hacen.
Right, and so,
valoricemos.
Right, the importance is to give value to this so that the women involved understand the high value of what they are doing.
Mm-hmm. Consideramos como grupo de trabajo que trabajar en ese sentido de que no solo ellas reconozcan lo importante de lo que hacen, sino que quienes recibimos el servicio de lo que hacen, consideramos que le puede dar un valor de autoconfianza como mujer, como proveedora del hogar, porque se proveen alimentos y economía, pero también contribuye a la comunidad cercana.
So it gives value and it gives a sense of self-esteem to the women, not only for what they're doing, but for their family and for themselves, but also for the entire community. So it changes, it advances the social standing.
Mm-hmm. Esto es muy importante, sobre todo cuando estamos inmersos en sociedades donde culturalmente no se valora lo que no está monetizado. Por eso el trabajo en ese sentido para nosotros es un objetivo grande.
And so the whole idea here is to avoid that this contribution is ignored. So you value it, you give it a name basically, and then it doesn't become lost. It becomes valued and appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Más o menos.
Another question I had is, I just drove through a big chunk of the Southeast here and, saw some of the challenges with weather and climate change. And do you find that this system is more sustainable as it pertains to global, climate change, and how's the system faring with increased droughts and more hurricanes and all that?
Okay. Nosotros estamos convencidos que estas pequeñas acciones, que parecieran pequeñas acciones, realmente tienen un impacto inmediato y a largo aliento.
So, momentito. So what they're saying is that what look to be very, very small actions actually have big consequences. So that the small actions locally here do contribute to sustainability.
Estas unidades de producción familiar, esta agricultura familiar de pequeña escala, trabaja de forma interactiva con varias especies animales vegetales sin un impacto, ¿cómo lo menciono? Sin una intensidad para la tierra. Aprovecha recursos locales, por tanto depende menos de lo que tiene el exterior. Trabaja en lo posible con insumos orgánicos de la misma unidad de producción. Todo este tipo de cuestiones trabaja las razas locales, trabaja con el conocimiento heredado de otras generaciones. Todo esto contribuye a la sustentabilidad justamente de este tipo de producción.
So this whole system of production is based on local inputs, usually organic, and so there's very, very little that comes in from the outside, and so it's very durable and very sustainable, and has minimal environmental impact.
Mm-hmm. The last question I had was, beyond what you're doing in Chiapas, you're involved with Red CONBIAND. I don't know if that's pronounced properly, but you're very active outside of Mexico too. And how does that come into play in the big picture of breed conservation in Latin America?
Yeah. Efectivamente. Yo creo, y aquí está Phil para desmentirme, CONBIAND ha sido una gran oportunidad para aquellos que nos sentimos pequeños, que nos sentimos solos, cuando luchamos por los recursos locales. Creo que es un espacio que nos ha permitido crecer a muchas personas juntas.
Okay, Red CONBIAND network, and then there's something in Spanish. And so this network basically unites people, and so it helps to avoid a sense of being alone and being separated in this fight, basically, for local resources and their sustainable use. So it brings people together, it unites them, and then there's this interchange of ideas and approaches that makes everyone stronger within this whole group.
En casi 2 décadas, 20 años, muchos de nosotros hemos crecido juntos.
So over 20 years, most of us have kind of grown up together in this effort and in this work.
Y nos hemos convertido en formadores de nuevas generaciones.
So now we've become the informers of the next generation to continue the work, which is good. And this also involves local breeds throughout the region.
Y hemos tenido la oportunidad de tener gente muy grande enseñándonos, cobijándonos. Es el caso de Phillip Sponenberg, que nos acompaña hoy.
So she's saying that I'm going to now, also, I'll interrupt you and I'll tell you a lot of things that Lupita has done. I mean, basically, this work in Chiapas is part of the flagship of this whole effort. So it's part of the basis of the origination of this approach of working with the local women, and then she has taken that model throughout Mexico from Chiapas, but also in different countries throughout Latin America. So very, very important work with the indigenous communities, the Mapuche communities in Patagonia in Argentina, and the way that they work, the way that they empower women for both sheep and goat, and also the plant production that's required to keep the whole thing going. So this group, through the network, has been able to expand the influence and the footprint of the influence of that work.
Pertenecer a CONBIAND también nos ha dado la posibilidad de crecer y de generar nuevas redes. Tenemos muchos consorcios en CONBIAND, consorcios que se dedican a estudiar específicamente razas animales. Pero también tenemos la red de TRASIBER y la red de GASTRIBER, que nos enfocamos. Va, y ahora voy.
But, okay, so within the network, there are specific consortiums that work on specific issues. These are usually species by species. Now, these are really important because what they do is they coordinate DNA studies, cultural studies, so for turkeys, for horses, for pigs, for goats, for sheep. And so it actually advances the whole thing and actually establishes the uniqueness of some of these genetic resources if we talk about the cattle, for example. So that's important. Now that's the important scientific one. But there's another thing, which is the GASTRIBER, which is Ibero-American gastronomy, basically. And so they talk about foodways. And so you'll have people like Elizabeth Casanova giving a lecture on 5,000 different kinds of tamales throughout the Americas. And then at the end of it, you have a big dinner. And of course, this is the best part, especially if Patricia Cervantes is there. But so you talk about the animals, talk about the genetic resources, and then talk about the actual final products that are culturally significant and regionally important. So GASTRIBER y qué más? GASTRIBER y TRASIBER, which is this whole unit based on the backyard production. So backyard production, foodways, and then the species by species consortiums.
Solo me gustaría añadir, con estas nuevas redes, TRASIBER y GASTRIBER, incluso Foro Ganadero, CONBIAND demuestra cómo los grupos fueron creciendo y de tener una mirada únicamente veterinaria, veterinaria, nosotros pudimos abrir a un panorama, a un entender la producción desde lo social, desde lo cultural. Yo creo que ese es uno de los grandes valores de CONBIAND. Habernos puesto en el camino de los animales locales, de las razas criollas, primero colocarnos como veterinarios y después abrirnos el panorama para el ámbito social, cultural, antropológico.
So it starts with a focus that's mostly veterinary, and then it works out to expand that into a sort of pan-cultural viewpoint with all the different ways that interacts with the different cultures. Sí, he entendido.
Sí. Yo creo que esa es la gran fortuna de pertenecer a CONBIAND y seguir caminando juntos.
So this is the big thing about participating in this network, is the ability to participate in this and to watch it expand and grow into these different areas that all interact to make sure that these local breeds are secure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you get government support for that? Do you find that the local governments are fairly supportive of this kind of work?
No exactamente. No, pero sí hay, particularmente en el gobierno que tenemos ahora, hay una posibilidad para trabajar con recursos locales, no financiamiento, pero trabajamos muchísimo con la autogestión, con las mismas familias, con las mismas comunidades. No hay programas específicos, sí hay respaldo en este momento para trabajos de investigación en esta oportunidad, pero no hay líneas específicas institucionales para, no las hay.
So there's not direct, specific governmental support, but the whole process can go forward with this sort of internal drive to work with these indigenous communities and with these same families year after year after year, so that it's almost self-supported in that way.
It's right.
Well, Phil, you know these programs better than I do. Are there any particular points that you would like to talk about as we wind down?
Sure. Well, have you seen changes in the appreciation and the value of the local breeds from your work? ¿Ese trabajo hace un cambio en la fortuna de las razas?
Sí. No pasa esto en inglés. Sí, porque al menos yo egresé de la facultad hace poco, más o menos 25 años, y el destino era desaparecer las razas locales. Y hoy en día podemos trabajar con recursos locales, animales y vegetales. Sí.
So yes, it has changed the fortune of the local breeds, especially I think some of the sheep breeds, and they're in Chiapas, which are very, very similar to our Navajo churro. So some of the sheep breeds, and also it has also worked to sort of consolidate the fate of the local chickens and the turkeys as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. So where can we learn more about your projects and what's happening with Red CONBIAND? Is there a website or a place that people can learn more about it?
¿Me ayudas, Phil?
¿Hay un sitio de web o algo de la información?
Sobre CONBIAND tenemos una página que se llama conbiand.site, y tenemos también la página de TRASIBER, que es trasiber.org. Entonces podemos identificar en las páginas, está todo esto accesible. Ahí se cuenta con publicaciones, libros, las novedades que desarrolla toda la gente involucrada en la red, se encuentran en estas páginas electrónicas.
So there's two websites, one for CONBIAND, and it's CONBIAND. CONBIAND with a point something. The other one is TRASIBER. So TRASIBER.org. .org. And those are portals into the publications, which include scientific papers, other papers, and books. So those are portals of entry, and especially the CONBIAND then gives you a portal of entry into these consortiums for the different species.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Brittany, do we have any questions from any of our audience or some shout outs?
Let's see. I believe we do. Allison says, bienvenido, Lupe.
Hola. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Alison, muchos saludos.
Let's see. And then Lisa is joining us. Thanks for joining us, Lisa.
Muchísimas gracias. Gracias a ustedes por este espacio. Gracias, Lisa.
Let's see. Cindy is also joining us. Thanks for joining us, Cindy.
Cindy, gracias. Igualmente. A sus órdenes.
Wonderful. And I don't think that we had any questions, just a lot of love for all the work that you're doing, and a lot of shout outs to say hello. Oh, I think I've got the websites that I can put up for everybody. Let's see.
Dejo mi correo electrónico también.
Hold on. TRASIBER.org, that's TRASIBER.org, for anybody that was interested in that one. And then we also have the CONBIAND site. I'll get that up here. And CONBIAND is CONBIAND.site, SITE. So I hope everyone will go and check those sites out and support Lupe's work. She's doing amazing things. And then, did you want me to share your email as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then if you wanted to contact Lupe by email, you could email her. And that's guadalupe.rodriguez@unach.mx. So we hope people will reach out to her and talk to her about the amazing things that she's doing, because it's been so awesome. I'm just blown away by the things.
Now, I really appreciate you coming on as our first guest for International Heritage Breeds Month. We got a lot of exciting things happening, and we really want to try and showcase what others are doing around the world with heritage breeds. And you know, everywhere there are people, there are breeds that are adapted for those regions and are really special genetic resources for agriculture as a whole. And we really appreciate you coming on. And this has been kind of an experiment for us, because we've never used a translator before. So I think this worked out pretty well. Phil, thank you so much for doing that for us, because my Spanish, I could probably only say 10 different things, and that's about it. But yeah, we'd love to have you back again sometime, and I'd love to talk more about turkeys on Turkey Month, and so maybe we can have you back then. And Brittany, do you have any other messages you need to plug for the Conservancy?
Absolutely. So Lupe, thank you again for joining us. Muchas gracias. That's about all I know in Spanish, so I apologize. I just love that you were able to show people that no matter where you are, you can make an impact in your local community. And I think that's so important and amazing. As far as the Conservancy goes, thank you to all of our wonderful members and supporters. Thank you for making programs like this chat today possible. If you're not a member and you want to become one, please let us know. Email us, give us a chat, send us a shout out. If you're enjoying content like this and the chat today, please like, share, let everybody know that you're enjoying it, and share it with a friend. So we hope that you'll continue to do that as well. Big thank you to Phil for translating today and joining us. We appreciate all of your work. And I think that's it. Anybody else?
Quiero agradecer. Gracias, Brittany. Gracias, Janet. Gracias, Phil. Siempre un gran amigo con muchísima historia. Gracias por este espacio. Es un espacio para las familias de todo el mundo que practican la agricultura familiar.
So she's thanking everybody, and she's saying it's an important space, especially because it's a space for the family.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And bye all.
Bye. We'll be back next week.
Hasta pronto. Gracias. Besos, Phil.
Besos.
Bye.